Happy Mass Monday. You can't really tell I have one on, but it's one of those. It says Earth Harbor Glow Juice Refining Enzyming Mask. So it's just one of the kinds you just kind of goop it on. It doesn't have the papery thing. So what shall we talk about today? Didn't really plan ahead as usual. I don't know if I told you, when I got the roof done, I asked them to take down my old fallen down shed that the roof of the shed had collapsed and everything. So I paid them extra to do that, but now there's a bunch of stuff that was underneath it that I borrowed a friend's rake, and I'm gonna kind of rake it all up and throw it away. But my back was bothering me for quite a few days since Thursday, I guess. So I didn't really go anywhere or do anything. Finally gonna go to the post office and mail that package, Michelle, I promise. Let's see, there's something I was gonna tell y'all, but I can't remember what it was now. Senior moment. Oh, I know. Last night I watched I don't watch documentaries too often, but this one was really interesting. It was on Amazon, and it was a 4-part, like an hour-ish each, and I just binge watched it all. It was, come up, my little friend. Don't lick that, no, you can't lick it, it's not good for you. Doesn't he look different? He looks so different with his haircut. You can see all his little freckles. No lick. It was about LuLaRoe. If you know what LuLaRoe is, there was a big craze for a while with their leggings, and they'd have these Facebook sales, and people would be waiting, and I forget what they called them, salesperson, but that's not what they called them. They had some name. Would only get a certain amount, and there's only a certain amount of each design, so it was a big frenzy to get a particular design, and they're supposed to be like buttery soft, really great leggings, and I don't know, it just became like it was supposed to help women spend time with their families and still make a little money, and it just got, total pyramid scheme where recruit more, and these women were spending, they maybe made a lot of money, the ones kind of up at the top of the pyramid, but they lost their families over it because they were always work, and then they want him to get your husband to quit his job and come into the business too. That way they've got him trapped, And it was just sad how people would lose houses, lost husbands, lost everything. They ruined a lot of lives, and the couple that started it all, they just still in total denial that they ever did anything wrong. It was really interesting. There's a couple people on YouTube that were kind of following it all, and there got to be like a Facebook group of people that were working it that started complaining, and eventually a bunch of lawsuits and all kinds of crazy stuff happened. They're out of business now, but part of their problem was they brought in all their family to be the executives, and nobody knew what they were doing, and the company grew to like a $1 billion company, like really, really fast, and they didn't know what they were doing. That was part of the problem. But anyway, it was really interesting. I've got a friend who's like totally into this whole Trump trial, and she watches it all day long and sends me snippets about how terrible person that Trump is, and I should watch this trial. I shouldn't be allowed to vote if I'm not informed, and And, it's somewhat interesting to me, but I'm just not obsessed with it like she is. But all my life I've known her. She like keeps CNN on in the background to listen to news all day long. That's just not me. Like, she mostly watches documentaries. I seldom watch a documentary. I don't know how we stayed friends all these years. We've been friends over 50 years, and we're polar opposites. She's super liberal. I'm super conservative. She's agnostic. I'm a strong believer. It's just all these different things. So one of the things our church is having what they call a leadership, whereas if you've got any volunteer position, you're considered leadership. And we were supposed to do this a couple months ago, and I didn't do it, but I'm going to try it now. It's memorize John 15. It's the one, I'll read you the first couple lines of it. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. And it gets down in the middle here. It's like, it's a lot of remain and it's confusing because it's like verse 8. This is to my Father's glory that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you, and now remain in my love. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remain in his love. As I have told you, this is so my joy may be in you, and your joy may be complete. My command is this: love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no man than he has laid down his life for his friends. So there's like remain in there. So I'm not doing too good at memorizing that. We did, as a church, memorize the 23rd Psalm, and that one I've got down pat. But that was 6 verses. This one's 17 verses. So this is going to take a little longer. I didn't do much this week. Like Mother's Day, I didn't really do anything. It was kind of cold. After I got home from church, it was rainy and cold, so I got under the covers and read a book, and Haku was laying on my pillow next to me, keeping me company. I did a little clip of it. My face looked terrible in it. I was really close to the camera. You can see all my flaws. And then my sons were gone. They were coming home from their cruise that they went on. They came into Houston Harbor like yesterday morning, and so they had to drive home and stuff. So then one son went and played soccer with his wife, and then my other son took a nap. And then in the evening I heard from them, and Happy Mother's Day and all that. But so I didn't really do much of nothing. No big Mother's Day lunch or anything like that. But that's okay. They weren't home, so they couldn't really do anything. They weren't home. I don't know. I don't know what to talk about. Do I have a story time? I know you like my story times. I used to live in Japan, which a lot of you know, and they had what they call the NCO Wives Club, which is non-commissioned officers. They're the ones that are just the regular grunts. They're not the officers, like sergeants and corporals, stuff like that. And my husband was a sergeant, so he, worked his way up pretty good. But you start out as an airman because it was the Air Force, and then you get up to like senior master sergeants, I think, is as far as you can go before you have to become an officer. But this NCO Wives Club, they had different things to do, different tours you could go on and stuff, and it was, an introduction to the real Japan. Like we'd take bus tours and go drive through rice paddies, or the road went through, the rice paddies were on either side. And one time we went to a place where they make pottery, and I got a couple pieces of pottery I still have to this day, vases and stuff. Let's see if there's any of them out. There's one up there, but it's too far up for me to bring it down and show it to you. And they had this, then I got kind of interested in pottery, so then they had this place where you could do pottery. It was like they'd pour the slip in a mold, and it would mold it for you, and then you could paint it or glaze it or whatever, and they'd bake it for you. And I made this, it was like a building, it was like a stable, and then all the little characters for this nativity scene, the camels and the sheep and the shepherds and the of course, Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus and the wise men. And so I painted it all just different, different colors. It wasn't just all glazed one color. It was, sometimes you see it where it's all glazed white or whatever. I painted it all different, like one guy's robe was blue and one guy's robe was brown or whatever. I did all of that. And that thing lasted for many, many, many years. I moved a lot, so things got broken here and there. I'd lose a sheep or I'd lose a camel or whatever. And by the time I got here, I unpacked it with this last move when I moved back here, and baby Jesus got broken, and it's like, okay, it's time for it to go. I mean, it's not a nativity anymore if baby Jesus is broken. But we did a lot of interesting things on these tours. Saw how they made pottery or saw how they lived their lives. And Japanese are such nice people. If you'd go over to one of their houses and compliment them on something, like, oh, I love that picture you've got right there, they'd take it off the wall and give it to you. So you had to be careful about complimenting them because they would just give you whatever you complimented them on. And one time we had this expensive camera and we just left it lay on a bench in a park. We forgot it and went back looking for it, and somebody had moved it over into the shade, but nobody stole it. Of course, we're talking 50-ish years ago, so things probably changed now. When I had my first son there, and when I'd walk around with him in stores, all the women that worked at the stores, they wanted to hold him and they'd pass him all around, and I'm like, wait, come back, because he'd be passing him all around the store because they love what they call round-eyed babies, because we were round-eyed. And there's an old joke that they had chaplains, and they were like different religions, like Presbyterian and Jewish, and just different pastors. And the Jewish pastor told us this joke about every time he'd go in a store, he'd feel like he had to leave because he'd go in a store and ask how much something was, and they'd tell him, go, Jew, and so he'd leave. Well, go, Jew means, I think it means 15. And they were just telling him 15 yen. It's just an old pastor joke. But anyway, I really enjoyed my time in Japan. We met a lot of other couples, and we'd get together and play games and have barbecues and stuff like that. They had this guy that would come around. In the summer, he would come around. He had it was like a charcoal grill kind of on wheels, and he'd wheel it around. Maybe it was on a cart. I don't know. But he'd bring it around from place to place, and in the winter, it would be corn on the cob. And you'd buy it, and he'd brush it with the soy sauce and something else mix, and he'd brush the corn with that, and it was so good. Then that was the summer. I'm sorry, I said winter. That was the summer, and then the winter he had sweet potatoes. So he'd just buy a sweet potato off this cart and put some butter on it, and you're good to go. Just instead of an ice cream man, it was a corn and sweet potato guy. Alrighty, I've rambled enough. If you haven't subscribed, love to have you. I'm getting close to 1,000. Of course, once I get to 1,000, I still won't get monetized because you need 4,000 watch hours, and I'm like nowhere near the watch hours. I'm like not even half that. So anyway, that's it. Didn't say a lot today, but you like my little story times usually. I will try and put something a little more interesting together for you later in the week. Oh, something I'm thinking about doing, I wonder if you'd find it interesting, is how much makeup how much difference does makeup really make when you're older? So I was thinking about doing one side of my face with makeup and the other side without, and do one of these, where you can see, the difference. So if that interests you, let me know. It's something I was thinking about doing. I thought it might be kind of fun. All right, this is all dried. I can wipe it off. Well, there's a wet spot right there. I'll wait a little longer. But anyway, love y'all. Talk to you soon. Happy Mess Monday.